Pele has a distinctive orange patch around its mouth. Researchers say it was spotted more than 100 times in Lomami National Park, hiding, of all places, in the forest. The discovery is only the 5th new monkey species identified in Africa in the past 75 years. It is a reminder, of course, that the world's forests still have one or two secrets to reveal. Looks kind of cute, doesn't it? All right, that's the news for now. Roundtable coming up next.
As Europe swelters in its 3rd heatwave of the summer, deadly wildfires are being sparked by the extreme heat, dry ground and strong winds. Scientists say this will only get worse. So what can we do to manage the increasing risk? Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Now, more than a dozen people have been killed in one of Spain's deadliest wildfires. In France, blazes have ripped through an historic forest near Paris as much of Europe bakes in its 3rd heatwave this summer.
Spanish firefighters race to contain flames burning through the country's northeastern Almeria region. At least 13 people have been killed in one of Spain's worst ever wildfires. Hundreds of residents have been displaced amid a charred landscape.
It rips your soul out. This is what you're left with.
I'm a wreck because I've lost everything.
After meeting with emergency teams, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez promised to strengthen the country's wildfire prevention measures.
We need to be aware that the climate is changing, that the effects of the climate emergency are worsening as it surpasses the predictions that even scientists have been warning us about for some time now.
This was Europe's first wildfire this summer to claim multiple lives, but it's one of several that have scorched tens of thousands of hectares across the continent in recent weeks. In France, hundreds of firefighters have been battling what's been described as a blaze of exceptional scale in the historic Fontainebleau forest just outside of Paris. Scientists say climate change is creating hotter, drier conditions that allow fires to spread faster, and French authorities say people are responsible for starting many of them. Since the beginning of summer, 59 people have been arrested on suspicion of starting wildfires. This year, the UK has been hit by its most widespread fire wave, a term which describes multiple urban blazes triggered by extended hot and dry weather. Europe's been enduring its 3rd heatwave of the summer with temperatures of over 40 degrees Celsius recorded. Last month, more than 10,000 excess deaths were reported due to extreme heat. And with temperatures expected to climb even further in the years ahead, these scenes are set to become more frequent across Europe.
Well, let's meet our guests. In Granada, in Spain, we have Alessio Ghirlanda. He's a reporter for Spain's only English-language newspaper, that's the Olive Press. And joining us from Galicia in northern Spain, we have Juan Picos. He is a forest fire scientist at the University of Vigo. And in Bangkok, in Thailand, we have the senior meteorologist, Jim Dale. And I'm delighted to say, joining me here in the studio, we have Dr. Beatrice Musello. She is an international climate expert from Chatham House in London. You're all very welcome to this roundtable. Alessio, to you first, just bring us up to speed. What's the very latest on the wildfires in Spain and what have you been seeing there?
Slowly but surely, the situation is returning to pretty much normal, if we can use that word, over in Almeria. Prime Minister Sanchez went to the Torre command post and pledged resources to rebuild after the fire torched 7,000 hectares of countryside in just 4 or 5 days. So this is the situation right now. Essentially, evacuees are slowly returning home. Authorities are gearing up to start rebuilding. And at the same time, climate experts nationwide are saying that the rest of Spain needs to prepare for what's to come over the next few months here in
Well, on
Spain.
that note, let's bring in Juan. Just give us your observations, Juan, on how prepared Spain is for the rest of the summer, because hotter weeks will surely come.
Unluckily, Spain has been suffering from forest fires from long time, but we have been seeing this change of regime of forest fires, and we are facing this extreme behavior in these forest fires, and also in sometimes these fires are impacting populated areas or areas where people are spending their holidays. So that's an increased risk, not just by the behavior of the fire that is going worse, but also these impacts into areas where a wildfire problem turns into a civil protection problem that, of course, is not easy to prevent. So situation is getting difficult, and we have been warning this for the last decade.
Juan, have you been shocked by what you've seen in your country this past week?
Of course, you always are shocked when you see these dramatic scenes or these news. But the problem is that I get more anxious than impacted, because this is part of my nightmares. I've been reconstructing some fires in my region, in other parts of Spain, and I've seen very closely, we were very near sometimes to have this death toll in our evacuations or people fleeing away from wildfires. So this was something that was perfectly feasible. So for us that we would know that it could happen is more anxious seeing the result that impacted.
Thank you. Jim, what has struck me most this week is that this is happening earlier in the summer, and it seems to be happening at a higher intensity as well and much quicker in the year.
Yeah, there's a degree by which an element of luck, you could say, in terms of these things coming to be. There's always an element of luck. With Spain, probably less so. I see Spain as it's 7 or 8 months, virtually desert climate, baking hot sunshine. You get the winter rains, and that doesn't help because you get the growth, and then you get the drought, and then you get the heat, and then you get an ignition, whatever that may be. And usually, on most occasions, it's arson. So, you take it for what it is, because in the past, you could say that spring was a wetter month when Spain and other parts of the Mediterranean used to get their rainfall, the majority of the rainfall in the early spring. Now it seems to have shifted. And I guess we're going to be talking climate change in a second or two, but it isn't just this end, it's also call it the autumn end, in other words, September and October time, where these wildfires can still occur, and we're still at risk. Hence the reason for me saying 7 or 8 months in the Bunsen burner.
Thank you. Beatrice, give us your thoughts on this happening earlier in the year, because it looks like this kind of pattern is here to stay.
Absolutely. I mean, what we are seeing with wildfires and in general with the climate impacts in Europe is that they're occurring more frequently, more often, according to timelines that we are not used to. And in a way, this is a very clear signal that in addition to a lot of investments into reducing emissions, net zero transitions, we really need to get serious about adaptation and preparedness because, again, these phenomena are here to stay. What is happening with the wildfires that Jean just described is a clear indication of we're used to this happening, but we're not used to the intensity and the frequency with which this is going to happen even more in the future. And investment on the ground is still not there, particularly in terms of preparedness. We're still very much focused on the emergency response rather than investing in early warning systems or in even like better landscape and forest management climate resilient infrastructure, all these very critical investments that need to happen across Europe. And just one last point, we sometimes don't think about or forget that Europe is actually the continent that is warming up the fastest, twice as much as the global average. So, we used to think about climate change as something happening in the future. Now it's on our doorstep, and we need to think about doing something about it. Yeah.
Across France, we've seen around 60 arrests for arson, people deliberately setting these fires. What kind of mentality is this?
It is shocking. I think you're talking about Fontainebleau, just 40 kilometers south of Paris, and it's causing some major disruptions, railway services, highway closed. It's really a clear signal also of how these challenges, as I think Juan was saying, are really civil emergencies, not just an environmental issue linked to forest burning, which would be bad in itself. And the fact that most wildfires are actually started by human activity, either accidentally or intentionally, is even crazier, because in a way, it could be prevented, right? And there's also a lot of, I talked before about preparedness, and there's a lot of work that also need to happen in terms of public awareness and making citizens aware of these risks. There are a lot of countries in the Mediterranean region, as well as in the Balkans, where there's been a lot of investment precisely on these very strong, very local level community type of awareness raising campaigns to tell people not, to do barbecues or throw cigarettes and so on. And this is just on, the accidental fire. And then you have all the kind of intentional fire linked to potential criminal activity, and brings us to another level of responses that need to be looked at, and really calling for a more integrated approach to addressing these risks.
Thank you. Alessio, do we know what started the fires in Spain?
The cause that authorities are currently investigating is a downed power line near the town of Los Gallardos in Almería province. According to several witnesses, this power line suddenly fell to the floor. They saw sparks flying off it, and these sparks ignited a patch of dry vegetation. But again, this is something that multiple people have seen and reported to authorities, and this is what authorities are investigating as the cause of the fire.
Just talking about the authorities, did the Spanish public feel that enough was done quickly enough?
That's a much more complicated question. The short answer is yes. Most people I spoke to when I was in Almería last weekend were incredibly grateful to authorities, rescuers, firefighters, everybody. Several of them, including mayors in some of these little towns that were affected, went actually door to door to rouse residents and alert them that they needed to evacuate. So on that side, there is a lot of appreciation. At the same time, a bit of a controversy seems to have erupted because many blamed Juanma Moreno, the president of Andalusia, over his decision not to send out a phone alert. So that's caused a bit of a controversy once again, but overall, I'd say that people are happy with the response.
Thank you. Juan, to you, talk to me about forestry management then. Do we need to completely rethink how we look after our forested areas if every summer is going to be like this one?
Yeah, our wildfire crisis, I tend to explain it as a collision of two trains. One of them is climate change. It is coming fast over us. But the other one is the change in the landscape, how we, in the last 5 decades, we lost most of our agriculture and grazing and rural activities. So when we create a landscape full of vegetation, then if in fact vegetation, from the point of view of wildfires, they are only storage of energy. I mean, plants are getting sunlight through photosynthesis and storing biomass. So it's a big reservoir of energy. And this big reservoir of energy that is substituting our rural activities is now being cooked by the climate change. So, of course, we are much behind what we should do in terms of recover a more resilient landscape. Just because we were for centuries grazing and farming. And we have to recover in some way some parts of the territory, again, with some activity. Otherwise, vegetation is going to take over, and in this climate situation, is going to be easily burned. So we have to balance how to intervene the landscape, how to fight climate change, and how to prepare the population, because we are going to suffer these kind of events in the near future.
Thank you. Jim, to you, in your area of expertise and knowledge, what would you say to anyone watching who's looking for advice on what to do if you're in an area, perhaps at a holiday home, perhaps on holidays in Spain or Greece or wherever these fires are breaking out? What should people do if there's a wildfire in the area?
Okay, so that's the key to it, isn't it? And the first thing to say is, if you're not in that area and you're moving into it, maybe as a tourist or a day tripper or whatever, make sure that you know that you're moving into a prone danger area, because that is the first thing. If you're actually there, if you've got a house there, a home, you've got to know your escape routes. You should have a map of the local area. In terms of sighting these things, in the daytime, often the first thing you see is the smoke in the distance, and then the flames. At night time, it's kind of the opposite. You'll see the flames first in the distance. Now, when you do that, you've got to recognize as best as you can how far away that is. Have a look around you, see whether or not you can move away quite rapidly. Maybe the first thing you do is actually call the emergency services. Make sure that they know where you are and where you might be going. We know that sometimes vehicles are not the safest exit route, because they are in themselves, they are combustible. The tires, the petrol, the seats, all of this, and people have, sadly, even on this occasion in Almeria, they used their cars to escape and found that then it's a trap. So really, you've got to be aware. And I'll mention one other thing, and that is, if you are in these areas, if you live or you're going into them, one of the things that you should have in the back of your car or the back of your house is a smoke mask. Why? Because in most cases, it's not necessarily the flames that are the killer. It's actually the smoke. You can be succumbed by the smoke very easily before the flames actually reach you. Other than that, a barren area where there is no vegetation, you know where that is, because the flames cannot attack that. That's fuel that they cannot use. So if you know there's a barren area, it might be a lake, it might be a river, but it also might just be an area of ground that has got no shrubbery on it. That again is a protection area. And if you find yourself in that and a fire's all around you, go low, stay low, dig yourself in as much as you can, face down. That's probably as much as I can give you for now.
Thank you, Jim. That's very useful. Beatrice, to you. This is the third heat wave of the summer so far, and we're nowhere near out of the summer. In countries like the UK and France, record-breaking temperatures, Austria, Germany, even Wales and parts of Ireland. Has our European climate changed forever?
The short answer is yes. And actually, I think the trend we're seeing